Sometimes it helps us fight the plague, sometimes it helps us find coronavirus, sometimes HIV, sometimes the flu, and many more. Now let's start by talking about where I learned all my info from, which is from Immune. The amazing system that keeps you alive. Written by Philip Detmer, and he has also made a YouTube channel, very popular. It's called Kazart in a nutshell. So that's where I learned all this info from. You can watch it if you want. Anyway, let's start with the basics by learning about the types of cells. Immune cells specifically. So the immune cells types are first macrophage, second is neutrophils, third is dendritic cells, fourth is T cells, fifth is B cells. There are actually many more, but today we are only going to talk about those. So let's get started by talking about each one of them. Now, macrophages are a type of phagocyte. They consume bacteria and diseases whole. That is the major thing that differentiates them from other cells. Now, neutrophils are like chaotic cells that run around doing like drunk people, because they cause more harm than good, because when they kill bacteria, they kill civilian cells in the process, and because they kill civilian cells in the process, they die of exhaustion quickly. Now let's move on to dendritic cells. Dendritic cells are not quite a part of the adaptive immune system, but they basically sends a message to the adaptive immune system. So the actual part of the adaptive immune system is the T cell. So the adaptive immune system is specific. That means a specific type of pathogen or disease, like for example HIV or the flu. Okay, now let's talk about T cells. There are two major types of T cells: cytotoxic or killer T cells and helper T cells. Now the helper T cells, they are like commanders, while the killer T cells are a little more like the neutrophils. Okay, now let's move on to B cells. They produce antibodies, which are the major way to get rid of pathogens and diseases. What happens when you get a cut is that first, the damage causes many cells to die, and the surviving cells use cytokines, which are like alarm signals that they use to call macrophages. Now the macrophages will create inflammation, which is basically a swelling. The swelling will invite a lot of blood to the area. Now, the blood that goes to the area will also bring platelets, which will obviously heal the wound further. Now, the bacteria will also come in. Because of the bacteria, the cells will also get damaged because of the bacteria. But majorly, the bacteria will strip resources from the body. That is why the macrophages will combat them. Now, in this case, there are quite a lot of bacteria. That is why they need the help of neutrophils. Now, the neutrophils will, as we discussed, and cause more harm than good, and that's why they're on a type timer. A trivia fact about them is that they create something when they die, they actually create a lot of chemicals, and the chemicals will trap a bacteria or bacterium. Okay, so this is what happens if the immune system is able to combat the bacteria properly. But in this case, there is a bacterium that is hard for the immune system to combat, a specific type of bacterium. That is why the dendritic cell comes into play. The dendritic cell will get one of the bacterium, and then it will place it, it will digest it and place it on one of its arms. It is and the sample is called an antigen. Now it will have to go into the lymphatic system, where the T cells and B cells live. It has to go through millions of T cells, because each T cell is for a different virus or bacteria. So after over 24 hours of searching, eventually the dendritic cell finds the bacterium, the T cell, and then there is an MHC class 2 molecule on the T cell. The MHC class 2 molecule on the T cell will be shown to the dendritic cell, and then the antigen is placed on top of it. Now the T cell gets activated. As soon as the T cell gets activated, it starts dividing into hundreds of types of them, like 2, and then 4, and then 8, etc. Now they will turn into two groups. One group will go to the battlefield, and the second group will search for the B cells. The first group will go to the infection site, the wound, and will command the macrophages and neutrophils to keep fighting. While the second group, as they search for B cells, it is as hard as finding a T cell. And that is why it is also going to take over a day. Now after they finally find it, they will also activate it. Now a B cell has actually been activated twice. First, because the lymphatic system is basically the sewage system of the body, and automatically if a piece of bacteria comes into the lymphatic system, it will get taken by the B cell and get activated. But at that point, only a couple of antibodies will get released, and the B cell still doesn't come to the battlefield. So, and right now, it is getting activated and being converted into a plasma cell. Now the plasma cell will go into the wound and will help fight along with the macrophages, neutrophils, and the T cells. Eventually, the antibodies will help by getting hold of the bacteria, and also making it by immobilizing the bacteria and making it easier for the macrophages to consume. Now, finally, most of the cells die to conserve energy, but 10% of the T cells and some of the B cells will survive, which will be converted into memory B cells and memory T cells. which after another infection of the same disease will fight. This is how you become immune to a disease. Conclusion. Now, in the conclusion, we have learnt on how all the cells use cooperation to fight against the bacterium. Next video, I will be talking about cancer.